And there we are. We are in and we are live. Episode number, God knows. We don't know why because we've filmed this one, Secret Squirrel. We're not sure when it's coming out. We know a date, but we don't know what episode number. So yeah, we will pretend that it's episode. But yeah, welcome, Matt. How have you been?
I'm good. Eking towards our half term in Romania. Kids have been 6 weeks, staff have been in 8, so we're kind of hitting that sweet spot where you want to break, but we're powering through. We should keep pushing till that October break comes.
8 weeks already, blimey. I think we are 5 weeks in. We've got an 8-week term, and I'm dreading or getting any further than 6 at the minute because it feels rough enough as it is to have already done 8. Fair play to you.
It's just the sicknesses are creeping in now. The kids are coughing, like staff are dropping, covers creeping up. It's just that time of year, the magical October time of year in a school.
Yeah, starting that winter sneezes and sniffles, which always usually bring problems.
Mine's the best. This is the thing about EdTech. They never tell you about kids, and they touch the keyboard, and then the next kid, you touch the keyboard when you're helping, and then suddenly you've got everything.
Oh, just germs spreading and everything.
Maybe this is why voice mode's the future. You don't get sick.
Yeah, that's good. See, we're still in shared computer labs as well. So my last school, we were one-to-one devices. So that actually was never really too much of a problem. But we are now, I'm back at school in shared suites. So actually, that's probably a good little reminder to buy some wipes or something, actually. It's not a bad idea. Yeah. Superb. But we do have
I think the cleaner's a little bit extra to get an extra clean in during the day.
So we do have a big guest this time round. We've been really looking forward to this one. Matt, do you want to lead us in?
Yeah, today we have Dan Fitzpatrick. He's the AI educator. Dan's a former teacher. He's the best-selling author of The AI Classroom. Currently a Forbes contributor, going around the world, keynoting, helping schools. And today we're here to chat to Dan about everything AI, the future of education, and Dan's new book, The Infinite Education, that's coming out soon. Or is coming out when we release this. There we go. I know that today, I think.
It will be out. It'll be out today, yes. It's going to be out today. Go and get your copies. Actually, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put a link and everything. We'll be proper professional. But Dan, welcome. Hello.
Hello. It's good to be with you. I don't know. You said it's out today, and I know this is going to go out on the day it's out, but I haven't finished writing it yet. So, but that won't be the case when people are hearing this. Trust me, you're not going to get an unfinished book. It'll be ready. But yeah. Thanks for the plug.
No, you're more than welcome. But before we even get onto that, I want to dig a little bit deeper into Dan before the AI educator, because obviously you weren't always the AI educator. In a previous life, you were a school leader and I want to say founder, but you were an edufuturist. Were you a founder?
Yeah. So, yeah, I trained out as a teacher in secondary schools in the UK. So I taught lots of different subjects, mainly because I got on SLT, and if you're in the state sector as you might know, and you just kind of used to plug gaps wherever there's no staff. So I was I think when I left, I trained as an RE teacher actually, and then when I left, my main timetable was BTEC Business Studies. So I went through quite a few changes in that time. So I moved into SLT. I think it was my third year of teaching, and I was responsible for technology, careers, and which I absolutely loved. Because to me, I suppose when I was given the job, I don't think anybody else kind of realized there would be a connection there. I think they just thought I was getting 2 random jobs, but actually to me they were very integral to one another. And a bit before that, so just to rewind a little bit, when I was training to be a teacher, I was working at a school in Manchester before I moved back to Newcastle in the northeast of England, and there was a guy in my department, a guy called Ben Whitaker, and we taught together in the same department. And I know you guys know Ben. We just decided to start looking at Google tools essentially. So I remember going to a session. So every Friday I did like a skit training program where, like you just like literally I was thrown in with like a 60% timetable. And every Friday we got like training sessions. And I remember somebody talking about Google Drive, I think it was. Was Google Classroom out then? I'm not sure, but it was Google Drive essentially, and kind of this whole idea of putting the work somewhere where students can access it at any time from any location, and kind of like the benefits of cloud technology for learning. And I just thought, I remember hearing it. I've still got this really vivid memory of being in that room. I know exactly which room it was. I was sat at that seat, and I remember thinking, why isn't everyone doing this already? Like, this seems crazy that this is not an actual thing that everybody, if they're not doing, should be doing. So went back to my department, told my head of department. He was a guy called Nick, who an amazing guy, now works in Liverpool. He was like, right, let's do it. He got behind it. And he's like one of these people who's like, when he's made a decision, he's like, right, full throttle with it. And I think we were just about to go on the Christmas break, and we got back off the Christmas break, and everything had been moved into Google Drive, all the resources, everything, and he'd just totally gone for it. And then Ben came on board with it. So we were talking about it with Ben, and Ben started using it, and we kind of became. Then we kind of got, I suppose, like when you're early, or when you're early in your organization with something like EdTech, you kind of can't help become a bit of an evangelist for it. You're like, because you know it's benefiting you so much, you just like, you want to talk about it to everyone and go, look what you can do. Like, you want to let them into the secret. So we started putting sessions on. We started putting breakfast club meetings on for other teachers. We were doing loads, and then we started. In fact, I remember we went to an event in Old Trafford, the stadium, like a Google event, and we kind of got to know some of the Googlers there. Started doing some work for Google as well, myself and Ben, and then we started our own podcast, which was like purely EdTech focused when we first started. And then we realized after a few episodes of doing it that there was this EdTech thing wasn't just about EdTech. There was something more there. And so we kind of very quickly veered into talking about the future of education, and becoming, I suppose, dissatisfied with the way it is done, and how maybe it could be done better, and how technology might facilitate that, but not just technology. How different leadership styles might facilitate that, how learning from industry might facilitate that, all these different factors. And so the podcast became a lot bigger than we thought, really, as we explored these ideas. A guy called Stephen Hope joined us about 2 years later, and then so that was I moved back home, and it really helped me. I don't know what you guys think, but I used to, every time before I would do a podcast, it'd be a bit like this, I suppose. Like, as I would get home from work, and I'd know we were recording at 6 o'clock, and I'd start to think, can't be bothered. Really can't be bothered. Just had a long day at work. I'm knackered. Want to see the family, and then after the podcast, I'd like literally skip away from my desk, like full of energy. It would like set me up for the next few days. And it was really like my own personal kind of CPD, really, that. And so absolutely loved it. And I suppose it helped my career, because I was learning so many different perspectives, learning so much from amazing educators around the world. And my career bled into it as well. So it was a really nice thing. And I eventually moved into further education, doing digital strategy for a large college group. I think I had a team of about, fluctuated, but between about 25 and 30 members of staff. It was our job to upskill staff and students digitally across 26,000 students, 1,000 members of staff. And that's where I really got to, where I come across AI really in a substantial way. So while I was working on strategy, I got to go spend some time in local industries, and really look at what's going on out there, so I could bring it back into the classroom, into the curriculum. And that's when I started to hear about this kind of new generative AI, really, and kind of some of the early capabilities before ChatGPT was released.
So you've like stolen all my follow-up questions and mentioned on everything there. So
I know
like
he's
literally, I was going to ask
every single follow-up
you
question.
literally dream guest have just preempted it all and went, I'm not even going to stop for you, which is amazing. But so
Sorry,
what timescale?
before we started, I should have said that I do just talk, so just tell me to shut up, like jump in.
This is in Google Drive, though. Have you got into our Google Drive, Dan, with your
Yeah.
skills?
Yeah, that's what it feels like, honestly. But no, but I mean, what are we talking? So from sort of teaching and being SLT, education, sort of polyfiller, filling in those gaps, and then to leading up to that point of sort of leading on to the AI stuff. What we're talking, because again, that's quite quick. So from 3 years from teacher to SLT, and then from SLT then on to AI, the AI educator. What kind of time frame are we talking?
I think, I mean, it hasn't been long. I think we're talking about 10 years, maybe. Was it 2024
Okay.
now? Yeah, 9 years, actually. 9 years.
So what
25
made
now,
that?
Dan. We're in January, remember?
Oh, yeah, it's 2025.
2025.
What was the real kick? What was that sort of moment that went, you know what, again, sort of like with that Google, because I know exactly, and it's mad because I had exactly the same thing. I had Google training and I remember this moment of the lights going on and being like, this is something, like, this is awesome of bringing the classroom online. I remember that. I also remember my own thing of where I started playing with AI. And again, there was just that moment where bang, and literally next day I went into the head teacher, was like, right, we have to talk about this. And so on. So for you, what was it that sparked that bit? So you did a little bit of industry there. What was there another moment like that, or was it just a natural progression into the AI?
I'd always been interested in it. I did an MA about probably 15 years ago now. And as part of that MA, I looked at advanced technology and actually looked at artificial intelligence. And I always remember my lecturer recommended this great book called The Feed by a guy called, I can't remember his first name, but his second name's Anderson. And it's essentially a dystopian, I suppose what we'd probably call a teenage novel, you know, a bit like Hunger Games style, like that level of novel. But it was fascinating. It was all about, I think it was written in about 2000, 2000. And it's all about kind of a future world where when people are born, a computer chip is put in their brain and like essentially simulates the capability we've got on a mobile phone. But it all happens through kind of the being implanted in the brain, and it really fascinated me. And the whole novel is all about how eventually one of them fights against it and gets it taken out. But so I was always fascinated about where technology could go, and it was always kind of, and I always used to think, well, and I think I wrote about this in my MA as well, about kind of the personalization of technology and how we seem to get going from huge big computer servers and computers getting smaller, more personal, to wearable technology, and to where's this going to go. And reading that book, I was thinking, my goodness, like it could become integrated with our biology. So I was always fascinated by tech, even before I was a teacher. And then when I was working in further education, I started hearing things about a technology and I heard someone refer to it as like a calculator for words. And I thought, wow, this could be really cool. And especially in further education, there's a lot of coursework, a lot of big chunks of writing that teachers have got to read through and mark. And I thought, maybe we could experiment with some of this and see even if it could just, in fact, when we first started looking at it, I was thinking maybe even if it just picks up on keywords within a big chunk of writing and picks out the keywords and then can kind of give an indication to the teacher of whether the content's been covered within their work and so on, just as a bit of an assistant. So we started looking at technology like that in kind of early language models. And then I suppose it wasn't too long after that ChatGPT was released, and kind of the end of November 2022, and then suddenly started playing with it. And a lot of the capabilities we were thinking were going to be 5-10 years down the line was suddenly at our fingertips. And I remember at the time just thinking, there's nobody talking about this. This was like late November 2022. Nobody talked about it from an education point of view anyway. And I was very much on Twitter a lot. I was like kind of a lot of my social media presence was on Twitter. A lot of tech people talking about it, no real educators. And then I came across a post which was quite negative towards it from someone within education, and I remember thinking, oh, I need. I mean, this is amazing. I need to like post about it, and I think I was just playing around with it on my phone. On the there wasn't an app then, so it was just on the browser on my phone. And I think I just clicked screen record on my phone and got it to something like, looking at it now, it's like, it was so basic. It was like, I think it might have even been like a lesson plan or something, like very basic. Write a lesson plan on this, and then posted it online, and then it got some traction. Did it again, and then soon realized a lot of people had just never heard of it, and so people were discovering it for the first time, and kind of everything went from there really, and yeah, that kind of became my life very, very fast.
That's like almost, I think, the hello world of AI is
Yeah.
everyone's first prompt is always write a lesson plan on insert. Yeah.
So was that quick from November launch? Very quick turnaround for the book coming out, or were you already working on the book ahead of
No,
ChatGPT?
no, it was very, very fast. So I remember I was posting a few like little bits. I remember being at my parents' house around Christmas time and posting a few more. Started getting a few requests for webinars on, people saying, "Oh, can you show us how to use this kind of thing?" And then I think I posted something. I think it might have been like actually marking a long piece of work. Now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, it obviously didn't do a great job, but back then it was like, this is amazing. Look at what it's doing. So I think I posted a video, and that was like the first like really viral thing I put on, and then literally, so that was I think that was the 1st of January, and then that month of January was probably the wildest month of my life from that moment on. On the 31st of January, I was appearing on Good Morning Britain with a, a bit of writing under my name on the TV that said AI expert. So I literally went from day one of January, like to the last day of January, suddenly labelled as an AI expert on national television talking about it. So it was a very crazy month. I think towards the end of that month, somebody reached out to me from a publishing company in America and said, well, I know it was Amanda Fox, who's a good friend now. Amanda reached out to me and said, do you want to write a book on AI? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then that all happened really fast. I think it feels like it happened. It feels like it was a big time frame, but I think we had the book out by 30th of March. So that happened really, really fast, and started getting a lot of requests to talk about artificial intelligence, to do training on artificial intelligence. And then early March, decided to quit my job. So it was just getting a bit too much. I was like literally going to conferences to speak at conferences, and just saying to my line manager, like, yeah, just going to a conference. Yeah, I was never dishonest about it, but I just kind of was like, yeah, just off, because I could go to conferences in my job quite easily. I had my own budget and things, but it suddenly started to be a bit of tension there around the thing I really wanted to do, and then my job kind of, and me changing a lot during that time, and kind of thought, well, I need to step out really, which is probably the most nerve wracking things I've ever done, and a few people helped me on that journey. But so yeah, it all kind of happened very fast. But I suppose, and a lot of people at the time did ask me, like, how did you do that, like literally overnight, like what's happening? But I suppose I've been working on it for years. So having
Yeah.
been part of Edufuturist was very much, it was a company. We started our own company. We as a 3-man band, we had award ceremonies, we would do events. So we learned marketing, we learned copywriting, we learned how to put an event on, how to host an event. We learned like everything that goes into to try and making a small business successful, finances, accounting, like literally you name it. When I wasn't in my day job, I was learning all these things. So when kind of the push came to shove, and I was like, right, I'm going to go for this on the AI side of things. I'd been working on a lot of those skills for a long time, I guess. So kind of everything came together, and I got to do what I love doing, really.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
And now you're working on now you're working on your second book.
Yeah. So Infinite Education it's called, the four steps to lead and change in the age of artificial intelligence. It's out today.
So for people listening, I should have said working. You've worked on it, it's completed, and it's been published, and it's ready now. What is finite versus infinite education? What is the driving theme of the book?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and it's kind of building on the work of an academic called James Carson. James Carson in the 1980s wrote a book about finite and infinite games, and he wrote it from a business point of view. And in fact, I think quite recently, maybe within the last 10 years anyway, Simon Sinek wrote a book kind of using a lot of that material of James Carson's. I think he called it maybe infinite games or finite games, something like that. So it kind of, the whole idea is that when we're especially from a business point of view, so if we go from that point of view first, and then I've kind of adapted it for education, is well, some people play finite games. It's whatever you do, whatever you're working on, is to get to a goal and there's an end point. And so when you've got a goal and an end point in mind, that's your psychology. Your whole psychology is around, right, we just need to get that end point. You play the game. Like, I often think, I remember when I learned to drive, my instructor taught me to pass the test. Like, literally, I think I'd done 20 hours, and then he put me in for the test, and he literally from day one he didn't really teach me how to drive. I mean, he did, but you know what I mean. His whole thing was, right, I'm going to show you how to pass the test, and he did. He got me. I mean, I got 13 minors, and if I got one more minor, I would have failed. But he helped me pass the test, and it wasn't until after that I properly learned how to drive on the roads after that whole process. And I think, like, he was playing a finite game, right? It was just about the end. That's all that mattered to him. That it was about that final point. And there are infinite games which recognize that there are stages that we have to pass through. However, that life, what we do, carries on. And so it's not just about focusing on the finite deadlines. It's about going, right, do we have what we need? Have we got the skills? Have we got the mentality to carry on the game afterwards? And so I love that concept. And as I was writing about this book, I was thinking it kind of encapsulated a lot of what I wanted to say in terms of actually what does education need to look like in a world of ubiquitous AI? If what we're told is true by the people who are making these tools, and that is we're still very, very early in this AI development, then a world where advanced AI is all around us, what does education need to look like in order to prepare our students for that kind of world? And I think it needs to be infinite education. It can't be, right, we're just going to get you to year 11 or the end of sixth form, and then we're going to say goodbye, and we're going to get you to that point, make sure you're successful, see you later. It has to be, we have to seriously be thinking about what world are our students going to be going into, and how do we make sure that they've got the skills to be successful in that world, and the outlook on life to be successful in that world. And I'd be critical of the education system, but from somebody who's been in it, I still consider myself in it, really, and love it as well. I've got two kids who are in it, a 5 and a 4-year-old, and I kind of do it from that point of view of going, right, how do we need to take a fresh look at what we're doing and rethink some things and maybe shift the needle on how we prepare our students for success.
So just piggybacking off that, just and talking about students' mindsets and maybe skills and teachers' mindset and skills in this new infinite education, are they the same for both teachers and students, or are different things required of those different groups?
It's a good question. I think so. It's more of an outlook I talk about in the book. So it's more of one of the chapters is all about, it's called Humans of the Gap, and it's all about how when I go around, I hear a lot of people talking about how we need to look at what AI can't do, and that's what we need to train our kids to do, our young people to do. And I get parents reach out to me. I don't know. We probably get the same as well. Like, of going, well, what, they're off to university soon. What should they study? Because obviously, if they want to do art, and we've got AI knocking out art within a few seconds, like what's actually going to be the most beneficial for them to study and for the skills that they should get. And I make the point in the book that we're creating a humans of the gap scenario by thinking like that. So, for example, again, I base this on there's an old theological concept called the God of the gaps, and it's all around how for thousands and thousands, probably millennia, humans, when they couldn't explain something, for example, they're inside the cave. They can hear the thunder happening. They don't know what thunder is. They go, right, must be a god making. It's a god that's angry. It's making a noise. And those descriptions sufficed for however millions of years. But actually, science is now plugging those gaps and going, well, actually, that's not God. That's actually science. This is a natural phenomenon. It's not a supernatural phenomenon. And the whole idea is throughout time, we've like placed God in those gaps that we can't explain, and science kind of pushes God back out once it explains it. And so it's kind of based on that analogy, really, in that I think we're in danger of putting our young people, or humanity in general, in the gaps where AI can't perform. And what's going to happen is a bit like the God of the gaps argument, is that when AI can then do it, it's going to narrow those gaps or even get rid of those gaps altogether, making the skills that our young people have irrelevant. And so I kind of talk about, well, how do we avoid that? And I think it's about, first of all, it's about mindset. It's about thinking, well, we're not on the same level as an AI. Stop putting ourselves on the same level as a probability machine. It's crazy. All right, so we need to step back and go, we're humans. We're not a computer. We're different, and therefore we shouldn't be trying to squeeze in the gaps get ourselves into the gaps of where computers can't perform. Actually, why don't we look at what we can be as human beings? And so I talk about how we shouldn't be looking at what can we do to get our worth, but looking at who we can be to get our worth as people. And I talk about how the education system can support that. And one of the ways I talk about is actually switching the narrative on education. I think for a long time we've talked about education as trying to help our students meet their aspirations, let's say, or become who they want to be. Actually, I think we should flip that narrative. I think we should talk about education as helping our students discover the value that they bring to the world. Because I think the most successful people are going to be people who develop a value, develop something of value that they can share with the world, or make a living off, or enjoy doing. And if to dig down deeper there, I mean, we're essentially talking about entrepreneurial skills here. And an entrepreneur works in whatever scenario they're in. They look at where the pain points are. They look at where they can help, and they find a solution or find value. And I'm not talking about entrepreneurs because I'm not talking about becoming a business person, although it might lead to that. But it's looking at, well, where's the opportunity for growth? Where's the opportunity to build a solution? And where can I be of value here? What value I can offer? And I think if we approach it in that sense, then we're thinking, actually, not what do you want to be so you can plug that gap in a jobs market, but or what do you want to do so you can plug that gap in a jobs market? We're talking about who do you want to be that can offer value to the world, and then therefore whatever they're doing, whatever position they find themselves in. Because let's be honest, we don't know what world they're going to live in, what world we're going to live in the next few decades. They have been, or they have developed to be people who can spot opportunities to add value. And so I think it's coming away from looking at almost like those like nuts and bolts. Well, learn this skill, and because a robot's never going to be able to do that, to go and, well, whatever the scenario is, have you got the toolbox? Have you got the skills to be able to to discover how you can add value to that scenario. And I think in order to do that, you need to be really comfortable in yourself. You need to be a rounded person, a person who is ethically aware, a person who has values, a person who is confident in who they are, a person who can communicate really well to get a message across, because how do you sell that solution if you can't talk to someone about it? And so I think there's a whole host of skills that in the book I've kind of put under the umbrella of entrepreneurial skills, but I suppose you could label them lots of different things. But that we might need to focus on more, instead of kind of putting those on the periphery of the curriculum and saving them for drop down days or for PSHE week or whatever it is, but actually going, right, well, how does education move to a place where we're forming people of value, I guess.
So in that sort of situation, if we take that sort of university one there, so you're talking about sort of value, and I 100% agree about entrepreneurial skills, because it's something we, with me and my business partner, we talk a lot about, is we prepare them for that, of having and being able to swap their hats and be able to chop and change and so on. But then what we tell them, because we work a lot of time with young people, is that first part, you really do have to pay your apprenticeship and build your skills first. So you need to put yourself in a position of where you're going to be wanted and to do those things. And you sort of build that up over time of a bit of a, like you said, with that long con of, right, well, I want to get to that point of being a consultant, but then I need to pay my apprenticeship now. So again, like for that university student who's really sort of on the precipice of going out into the world and so on, so where should they really be focusing their value then?
I think it starts with that value proposition. So I think it goes, right, well, where can I add value in the world that I'm living in right now? And then reverse engineering the skills. So skills, you can teach yourself skills really easily. Now, I'm obviously not talking about like a doctor here or a profession where you really need to know your stuff if you're gonna. I mean, saying that, there was I don't know if you saw. I was about to say today, but 4 months ago, Ethan Mollick put a post on LinkedIn about how it was ChatGPT, the latest version, working with doctors, and they found that the doctors who worked with ChatGPT got better results in terms of consultation with their patients, and then they found that actually ChatGPT on its own got much better results. So it's things are developing fast, and I think and I think this is another area where I think the education system is kind of got it wrong. And I say that, and I can talk about that more if you want, but I think it's going, right, well, it's kind of a just in case style scenario of going, right, we're going to teach you, come into class, 5 different classes every day for an hour, and we're going to give you loads of information, and then we want to know you can learn it just in case you might need to use it in the future. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I remember very little what the Battle of Hastings 1066, so a few little bits, like some subjects
we all know them.
Everyone remembers the Oxbow Lake.
Yeah,
we all know them.
But everything else, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's in there somewhere, but I've never had to use it. So I think why, and I think art. So art, I used to hate art, right? So I remember sitting in class, and the people who were naturally gifted at art got all the praise. They were top of the class. Like me, who could literally just draw stickmen, just like, I don't even think the teacher knew I was in the class. I don't even think she cared that I was in the class, to be honest. So I mean, and I had let's say 1 hour of art every day in Key Stage 3. That's going to add up. Like what else like could have been doing? I mean, what was that for? Just in case I wanted to be an artist in 20 years' time. Like, I think I'm being really critical. I'm being quite, well, maybe quite provocative. I don't know. Sorry if you're an art teacher watching this and you're on a mission to teach everybody art. But I just think, why do we put the cart before the horse? Why are we going, right, let's just learn this just in case? Why don't we go, right, what do we want to do? What value could we offer? What's the problems? I mean, imagine if school, on the first day, you sat down and a group of local businessmen, maybe some local councillors, a representative from the local area came in and went, you know what? We've got some issues in our local area, some big issues. I don't know, maybe it's we've got too much landfill and we don't know what to do with it. We're spending so much money shipping it off to China or wherever. Could we? Could anybody add value to this? Does anyone want to have a look and see how they can add value to this scenario? And why not start from there? And then you go, right, well, what skills are you going to need in order to be able to do that? What knowledge are you going to need? We're going to need to know a bit more about this. And this is nothing new. Some schools have been doing this for a long time. A guy I've known for years called Rob Hoban used to manage the Agora school in the Netherlands, and that's exactly what they did. They literally on the first day they would say to their students, "What do you want to do?" And if the kid said, "Oh, I want to build a skateboard," they go, "Right, okay, let's break it down, all the skills and all the knowledge that you're going to need to know. Well, you're going to need to know some math skills because how else are you going to bend the wood and know what the optimal angles are for that? You're going to need to be able to cut the wood. So what we're going to do is we're going to give a local carpenter a ring and we're going to see if you can spend Friday afternoon with them every week and learn how to do that." And then it was kind of reverse engineering the skills for that student to be able to do that. And I think, yeah, and then it becomes a just-in-time model. It's not a just-in-case model. It's a just-in-time model of going, right, let's learn it for a specific purpose, and then it becomes valuable. It becomes integral to the value that we offer. And I think, yeah, I think going back to that university student, I think find where there's value. I think if we teach people how to spot where they can add value to certain scenarios, and then they can reverse engineer those skills. I mean, go on the internet, like you can learn skills for free. I mean, every now and then there's a paid course, but most people are giving it away for free. I mean, follow Matthew. If you want to know about AI, like he gives everything.
But that way of thinking, I suppose that's a different approach for me as a teacher. As a subject teacher, mainly Key Stage 3, going up to Key Stage 5, it's a very different mentality for me to take on. I think it was a back and forth between me and Aaron and Ben once, saying maybe secondary needs to be more like primary school, where you've got a classroom teacher or a point person who knows you really well, and the specialists like parachute in to help when they're needed.
Because that's something we do. We do a lot with the Inventor Club, and that's where we had a conversation, and I talk about this a lot because it just, from a DT point of view, it's very similar again to that analogy of, are we making them for infinite or finite and so on? And you go, right, you're going to do this thing. You're all going to make a pencil case, and it's going to be wooden, and it's going to have a slide drawer, and you're all going to learn about the mechanism, the slide, and everyone comes out with exactly the same thing, but that one's got flowers, that one's got a football logo, and that is just splodges. Yeah. And they've all just painted it slightly different, and there's no real, like you said, because a lot of what you've just said there's personalization in there of learning, what you were talking about. You're talking about that sort of, again, that will be training them for just the end of year 11, the rest of their life, and so on. And we try and do that with what we do in Inventor Club, because we just chuck a real broad theme in there of gears, for instance. So we've just started our term back up. We're doing gears, and we're going to do a marble run, which has been done before. However, that's it. The only brief, that's all we tell them. And the only brief is it needs to be continuous. So it's going to have to, the marbles can go wherever they like, but when they get to the bottom, they've got to come back up. And so it's so wide open. So everyone is completely different. They finish with something completely. Some have got merry-go wheels, some have got spirals, some have got pulleys on them. And we've just got so many different variations of it. And we've got them all in there from 5. Our youngest is 8 this year, all the way up to 14. And they're all in the same class learning the similar thing with the same brief, but they're coming out with completely different stuff. And I think that's what teachers take in mind, is just go, do you know what if, like I said, what if in geography, actually we all just took a region, and like I said, you just took a region and you went and learned about that thing, and you learned about that area or that feature of whatever. And then again, whether they taught them something else, or actually even better yet, do you know what? No, you're going to take your region, you're going to go over to your art teacher, and now you're going to build a live paper mache model, because again, we're going to start looking at how we bond things, and then you're going to go from your science lesson, you're going to learn why paper mache is sticky, and you're going to follow these little trails and so on. And so that's where like cross curricular really comes into it. And I think for anyone who wanted to talk about AI, we've just gone straight onto the problems of education. But I think, like I said, it's important because it just brings it all up at once, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know if you've come across XP schools who are in Doncaster, and they've just opened one in Gateshead, but that's exactly what they do. So they call them expeditions. So they don't have individualized subjects. They'll have an expedition where they focus on a project essentially, and then all of the teachers will work together to kind of get their content in there and get what the students need to know, because they're still in the English education system, so they're going to have to do GCSEs at some point. So they still need to know things, but they'll do something that they can work on cross curricular, and that's how they work. I think there's probably one thing missing, and that is what the real world element. Like students, like teenagers, aren't kind of humans in waiting. They literally can solve issues right now. They can help towards society right now. So why not ask them to contribute right now, instead of putting that work and sticking it into an exercise book that goes on a shelf at the back of the room and then gets chucked out at the end of the summer term? Like, what can that work go into the real world? Can it have an impact right now? And I think like the motivation that would come from that. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, that whole kind of talking about the future of education, because I think eventually that's what AI does to you. It makes you think, well, actually, this is something. To be honest, let me take a step back, because I think people in education downplay AI a lot, and I understand it. And I've even started. I remember when I first started talking about AI, it was very different to how I would talk about it now. I downplayed a lot myself, and it's because, you know what, I just don't want 30 people shouting at me on LinkedIn every day in the comments. But it's and also I'm like, is that valuable? Probably not. Let's meet people where they are and offer some value. But I honestly think we're underestimating this hugely. I think we underestimated kind of the rise of digital technologies, and I think the education system is already probably about 20 years behind there, in terms of properly integrating it and getting the benefits there. Now, that I'm saying the system, I'm not saying individual schools or teachers, because there's some amazing innovative work going on there. I think we're about to almost fall off a cliff, really, because the progress that we're going to see, and already are seeing to some extent, is going to go a hell of a lot faster than it has been going. I mean, just think over the next 10 or so years. Not many people talk about this, but things like quantum computing, fusion technology are going through massive leaps at the moment. You like search Google News, and there's some small stories on it, but nobody really talks about it. I guess like pre-2022, nobody really talked about AI in the mainstream, really. We're going to see some huge technology.
We're bottom of the river, aren't we? We're bottom of the river, aren't we? And I think that's something people forget. It's like I said, there is people doing amazing things with it. And like I said, we're still at give me lesson plan 4. And we're still using chatbots because I still do the training, like I said, with and I showed the Japanese research with the MRIs. They got them to see the pictures, look at them, remember them, took an MRI, then they were able to run it through an AI decoder, and that's what it was. It was just doing calculations really, really quickly. And so then it got and printed a picture of what they were seeing from their MRI scan. And that is going on. That was happening, like I said, 2 years ago, they were doing that. And so we're going to start seeing that technology come through in some way or another in the classroom within the next 2 years, aren't we? And I think that's what people are not doing. They're not horizon scanning a lot, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was February 23 that report came out from Osaka University. But I think businesses are in a really good position to go, let's delve into that. Let's see if we can integrate that or create something out of it. Education's not in a great place to do that. So it is like you say, we are downriver. We get like the secondhand tools, really. Like once once a big company's figured out how to do it for a business, then someone goes, "Oh, let's make an education version of this." I mean, that's what Microsoft Teams is, to be fair. So no, don't mean to have a jibe at Microsoft Teams, but the yeah, it and I think we get like kind of the hand me downs. And we're playing with a chatbot. Like we're playing with, I mean, so is most of the world at the minute, but if you're playing with a chatbot that can create things, you're going to just go, right, well, what can it create of what I'm doing? Let's have a look at a lesson plan. I mean, to be honest, I don't even know why that's a good example. Like, who writes lesson plans anymore? Unless you're a trainee teacher. Do people still write lesson plans? I don't know.
I think it's an easy entry point, I suppose. It's like, because that was my first thing. I was like, I've got these things in my cupboard, make me a meal. And then I just sat on the sofa, I think just having a drink, and I was like, write a lesson plan about, and it was just like, oh, like it can do that. And then it kind of went from there. I think it's because you've seen it do something you can do well.
Yeah.
And then you're sort of like, oh, what else can it do well? And then you kind of just keep going and going and going.
And I think especially when you're somebody who's not trained in innovation, or you're just so tired and worn down, and you've got long days, like you don't have time to reflect and think all that much. You pull at examples of what you know, don't you? You don't go like it takes probably a very, very small minority to then go, oh, I wonder if it could go one step further. I wonder if it could, and I think it's a real need for, and I call it the it's like the difference between linear and non-linear innovation. And I know I've talked to you about this before, about there's a really kind of the innovation that we tend to think about quite often is the innovation of linear innovation. It's like going, well, how do we make what we're already doing better? How do we build some efficiency into that? How do we maybe get there faster, and so on, maybe a bit more creatively? And to be honest, I think the education system does that quite well. And I know when I was in the classroom, we were always looking at ways to engineer efficiency into what we were doing, in terms of getting students into the classroom so they could spend more time learning rather than lining up outside, to even the things I remember going to a CPD where someone shared how they got their exercise books out to each student in like less than 30 seconds. It's just it sounds crazy when I think about it. But yeah, we had like their method of how they did it, to spend, and it was all engineering efficiency so that students could have more time learning, which I totally get. And I think we're quite good at that. And so suddenly we're faced with AI, and it's like, right, well, how can that help us with that? How can that do a bit of this writing, or help us close some of those gaps and be a bit more efficient? And my goodness, we need it. The education system needs it, especially it really does. But I think there's another type of innovation there that we rarely look at in education, and that's non-linear innovation. It's all about how do we create something new. Why do we need to create something new? Well, let's go back to AI again. AI is really helping us with those efficiencies at the moment in very specific areas. However, if AI does continue to develop the way it is, then actually it could make what we're doing irrelevant. It could make some of what we're doing obsolete, and so therefore, just doing more and more of the linear innovation isn't going to help. So we need to do something else. So we need to look at, well, how do we recreate some of what we're doing? How do we do something a bit different? How do we and I honestly think that, I mean, it's kind of the essence of the book, really. The whole first half of the book is all around kind of the why infinite education rather than finite education. I kind of make the argument through advancements of AI, through how we look at this technology, through the historic way that our education system has been run. And then the second half of the book is a real practical step-by-step process going through like 4 different stages to start this non-linear journey. And I don't think anyone's ever really told us that that type of innovation can exist in education, let alone showed us how we can get there. So I think I think just first of all saying we can, if enough of us say we want to start looking and creating something new, we can do that. And I'm not saying we go, right, tomorrow school's out and we're gonna reinvent it for the day after or whatever. Because I think good leadership is about holding both types of innovation in harmony. You don't get rid of what you're doing straight away because you're not gonna have an organization or a school to come back to. But also, you don't just keep doing what you're doing, but a bit faster, because in 5 years' time, you might not have an organization to come back to, because there might be some great alternatives popped up in the meantime. And we're seeing that. And I think one of the problems is that the education system hasn't really had competition before. Like, fair enough, if you're a private school, another school down the road, you might be vying for students. But let's be honest, and I spend enough time in private schools, they're pretty much offering the same thing. I mean, the culture might be different, a few subjects might be different, but it's essentially the same package in a slightly different way. But actually, what we're going to start seeing, and we're already seeing this, is educational offerings that don't look anything like what we would traditionally call school. And at the minute, we're generally seeing that from like online schooling. Now, not all of them. Some online schools are just a duplicate copy of what you'd see in a physical school, but online. But some are starting to push the boundaries. Some are really starting to think, how do we integrate AI in order to assist that? And I think we're going to start seeing viable alternatives. And again, I think that's a good thing. Like, I know, like, I spend a lot of my time going, right, how do we change the education system so that we can be dynamic as well? But I still think that having competition is healthy, and having other alternatives, I think, is going to be amazing. I mean, first of all, because in the UK, what was it, like 1 in 5 students haven't really fully returned to school since COVID. Like if we can find a solution for those guys first, that would be absolutely phenomenal. Something that works for them. So I think we need to start thinking outside the box a bit. It's interesting. I did a postgraduate diploma on innovation and design thinking. It was with MIT and a few other places online about 2 years ago now, and I was the only person. There's probably about 50 of us on this course. I was the only person from the field of education. A lot of them were bankers. Some of them worked in government. Some of them worked in other areas of finance and so on. So you could really see which kind of sectors were investing in getting their people trained up to be innovators, to be non-linear innovators as well. In fact, that's where I first came across that solution. It comes from the 3-box solution by Vijay Govindarajan, who was one of the tutors on that course. And I was the only one from education, and I was only there because I literally had my own budget where I was working, so I put myself on the course. So that was the only reason I was there. Nobody told me to go on it. And that worries me that we don't look out. In fact, I think we almost do the opposite sometimes. I hear people regularly say, like, someone tries to talk about education who's not from an education background, and they get shut down. Like a friend of mine he's not with us anymore, but I remember he didn't work in education, but he did a lot of professional development for teachers. He would regularly get shot down being like, "Oh, here we go again, someone who's not from education trying to tell teachers what to do." Like literally completely dismissed. 50-year career working in some of the most amazing institutions in the world. Wise guy, author, completely dismissed with one line because he doesn't work in education. Actually, maybe that's the failure, that we don't look out as much and try to take lessons from other areas of life and other sectors. Yeah, I'm rambling, but yeah, jump in.
No, you're not rambling at all. I think, like you said, you're absolutely spot on. Now, by this point,
you're not rambling, just hitting every single one of our questions in the background.
He's on the Google Drive again. But by this point, we would have filmed another and recorded another one where we're going to talk specifically about what education can learn from business and from tech companies and from so on in different perspectives. Because again, my business partner gets exactly that. He's an ex principal engineer from Dyson, and they love that because of the Dyson brand. But then whenever he tries to talk about education, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, because I can do it quicker." And he's talking about innovation. He's trying to talk about this different mindset, and we're trying to get you in a different way of thinking. But actually, no, well, no, because that's going to take a bit of time. That's going to take a bit of work. And in education, like I said, that usually comes first. It comes right to the forefront of, well, actually, I could probably think of a better way of doing it. But actually, no, it's probably maybe not better. What you're thinking is a quicker way, or a more, like you said previously, a more efficient way of doing it because of your experience. But what we're talking about is a very different kind of way of thinking and coming at it from a different point of view entirely. And sometimes that can kind of be difficult for people to sort of wrap their heads around. And business can do that.
Yeah, from teachers on the ground. I mean, of course, like if you're a teacher on the ground, and in a lot of schools, teachers don't even have the agency to teach the way they want to teach these days. So then if somebody is coming in and going, you know what, you need to change the education system from the inside out, I mean, two fingers up to them. You'd be like, right, like, piss off, mate. Like, come on, I've got like books to mark, like, and I've got no real influence in the organisation I'm working, let alone the system itself. So I get it, and I get in this book. My book won't be for everyone, but I think it's for those people who have that that itching feeling inside that things can and probably should be different. And it's to try and scratch that itch and go, right, how do you start talking about it? How do you start influencing the people around you? And then if you're given a little bit of responsibility, maybe not SLT, maybe it's just, oh, you're into AI. Could you do an AI group or something like that? Then how do you then use that small or big platform to start really influencing and aligning your organization to make lasting change? And if you might not change the system, but if you can change the outlook and the future prospects of the students just in your school through your teachers, then that's kind of what the book's designed to do, really.
I've got a question. The girl on the cover, because I've seen the front cover. There's it looks beautiful. Like, and I saw the image of the girl. What's that inspiration from?
I think you saw that cover 4 months ago. I think it might have changed by.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. What was the inspiration behind the girl from 4 months ago?
So there is a story behind it, and I think as the book goes out today, it'll be a surprise. I might have stuck with that cover, or I might have changed it. But the whole idea is that I start off with a story, and it's a fable. And the whole story is about an old man walking home one day, and he comes across a frog, and he realizes the frog's talking to him. So he picks the frog up, and he starts having a conversation with the frog, and he realizes the frog's wearing a crown. And he's like, well, what's going on here? So he asks the frog about the crown, and the frog says, I'm actually a princess, and if you kiss me, I will turn back into a princess, and we'll get married, we'll have a big family, we'll have lots of wealth, we'll live in the castle together. And the old man looks at her, and he puts the frog in his pocket and walks away. And as he's walking away, you can hear the frog shouting out of his pocket, what are you doing? Why have you put me in your pocket? And he says, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog. And the whole point of that is, and so I make the comparison early on that we're being presented with that frog right now. And some people are quite happy just to go, I'll stick it in my pocket and have a talking frog, because then I don't have to change my life all that much. Not that much has to change, but I've got a cool thing. There's even a parallel there with like ChatGPT. It talks back to me. It's cool. But actually, when it comes to the real transformation, people are a bit more reluctant to actually go down the path of real transformation. So the female on the front cover with the crown is to, because I think on the cover she's looking down, so it's like she's unhappy, she's upset that transformation hasn't occurred, type thing. But I'm still, as we're recording, I'm still playing around with that image. I've tried a frog with a crown on. I've tried an old man talking to a frog. I've tried, and I'm just like, I'm not happy with any of them at the minute. So it's the 6th of January today. People will know if you go to Amazon and have a look.
Yeah. Otherwise, that little story would make no sense, and they wouldn't have seen the picture at all. So, sort of with where we're currently at, and like you said, in this, and I think that links in nicely with this thing of there's the potential with the princess, but actually we're currently sitting with the frog. So, what are sort of the big questions you're wrestling with AI at the minute, and sort of the near future as we move forward? Because even in the 4 months we've sort of spoken, like you said, it could be completely different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, can you remember December when the world almost ended? My goodness, that was horrendous. But we got over it. And uh, if someone hasn't been listening properly, they'll be like, "What is going on?" Yeah, I suppose the big questions around this technology at the moment. I guess it's what's next, really. I think we're just at the moment we're getting better talking frogs, for want of a better term. Frogs that can think for a long time now. That ChatGPT just released. I think and it's down to humans, isn't it? Like the humans are almost the slow ones in this game at the moment in terms of building use cases, developing products, services out of this technology, building the business that goes behind it takes a long time. So I'm excited to see how this technology can start to be applied more. And I think we're getting that in drips and drabs from things like wearable AI technology at the minute. A lot of it's pretty naff, but there's one or two out there that are really good. I use the Meta Ray-Ban glasses quite a bit, and they're really good at what they do. But actually seeing where that could go as the AI inside of it develops, I think is really exciting. And I think then, and I say this to teachers when I'm talking to teachers, I imagine having a pair of them that are designed for education. Like it could that's trained on retrieval practice or something like that, where it could be there with the student and assist the student in their learning. I think that's going to be exciting. Again, it's the linear stuff at the moment, but I'm also excited, and I'm working with a few schools on this at the moment and looking where the non-linear side of things go. There are a few brave schools out there going, right, well, how might we set up something new that we could then almost move to in the next few years, if that makes sense. Almost reminds me a bit of, I know the space station at the minute. I think they're bringing it down in 2030. So what they're going to do is, I think the plan is to go up and start building new modules off the end of it, and then eventually release them off. And then as the space station comes down, they'll have new space stations. Almost reminds me a bit of that. And I'm excited to see where that goes, really. And it's kind of similar to what businesses are doing at the minute. A lot of businesses are kind of building software, building products, building services with the AI we've got at the minute, and they're okay. I mean, you could probably put some of the wearables in that bracket. I mean, they're all right, but actually, they're not doing that because they think they've got a finished product at the minute. They're doing that because they are taking a bet that in 5 years' time, the AI that'll go into that will be really advanced, and therefore the product will advance. So, and I know a few schools, colleges that are doing that already, who are starting out with kind of basic AI language models, creating products for students, for teachers, knowing that as the AI inside of it develops, that the capability and what's possible will develop alongside that. So I'm excited to see some of that come to fruition in the next few years.
Yeah, because I think that's a good one about wearables, of whether they're sort of gimmicky or not. So I don't necessarily think the Ray-Bans would be for me, but the pin, I love the idea of the pin. I think that's going to be something, like I said, not necessarily this iteration, but like the pin 4.0 or whatever is coming down the line. I think, like I said, because it's instantly just Star Trek badge kind of esqueness, I think is going to be something potentially in the future that's less gimmicky than it is now. But like I said, based on whatever the future of those features are going to be.
Yeah, and
I just want the universal translator. That's me. The Star Trek kind of. We can all just speak and we all understand each other. That's where I want to be.
You can do that with the new version of Google ChatGPT Voice. I had a Julia, my partner. She speaks German fluently, and I put ChatGPT Voice in front of us both the other evening, and I spoke in English, she spoke in German, and I just told ChatGPT to be a live translator, conversational trader, and we had a full blown conversation. Her speaking German and me speaking English. So, yeah, and that's available now as an API. So you could literally take that technology and stick it in a wearable or something like that.
I tell you what, I wasn't that impressed with the advanced until my 8 minutes run out. And then I went back to using the normal ChatGPT voice. So if any of you haven't done it, because you can do it, like I said, because you don't realize actually how quick it responds until you use the normal one again. And it felt actually, I realized it was quite natural, the back and forth and the conversation of it. So even just those little tweaks of innovations of just improvements and making it that little bit better, it felt so much more natural doing it. As soon as I went back to the old version, I noticed how robotic it was of it stopping and beeping and going bloop, 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 while it was thinking. Yeah. And I realized the advanced doesn't have that at all. It's a pretty much instant response. It comes back.
Yeah. And I think, and it's still in prototype stage as well, isn't it? It's like OpenAI, I suppose you could make an argument it's not like this now, but OpenAI was started off as almost like an API company. They were ChatGPT was just to stick something free on their website so that people could see the power of a GPT. That's all it was. It wasn't supposed to really be a product in and of itself. It was supposed to be just a little, come on, have a little sample, play around with what this thing can do. Where they really see their business is other businesses taking that technology and integrating it into hardware, into software. And I think that's what excites me, where this can be taken and where this can be applied. And kudos to those companies who are making wearables. Like, they're seeing the test in the market and going, is this something people want? Is it not? And ultimately the market will decide, won't they? They'll and decide what's useful and what's not useful, like it always has. So I'm kind of excited to see that stage as well, like what is going to last out, because I do think we're in that kind of like 1998, 99 of the internet, where over the next few years a lot of the companies we see will pop and be gone. But what comes from that, like the new, I say the new, it will be Google, the new big boys in town that came from the start of the internet age, and the use cases they found for the internet. I mean, that we just take for granted now, like Amazon online shopping, for example. Like, that was a prototype in the late 90s. Like, see if it worked, see if people wanted that. Where's this technology going to be in the next few years, where we're going to maybe in 10 years feel like we've always had it. It's always been here with us, and we probably couldn't live without it. That's what excites me. Yeah. I almost wish I was 20 years younger. Do you ever feel like that, where you're like,
every day?
I wish I could see where this is going to go, like further down the line, because this could get really, really interesting.
And before we start wrapping up, then, I want to just talk about just some immediate actions, then, some stuff that people can sort of get up and going with, because you've sort of put out there with prompts and frameworks for people to follow, and you've changed that sort of over time, and you've sort of changed your approach to it a little bit more now as well, of it being much more of a conversation with sort of the AI and the chatbots. And I was actually at a Google event recently, and they said on there that they've found the ideal prompt length is 21 words, which sort of goes directly in the face of the mega prompt. And so how can sort of people get now the most out of AI and in what they're using and doing today?
Yeah, I think it is like having that conversation. I think like you say there, and yeah, I love coming on podcasts like this and talking the theoretical stuff and the high flying stuff. That's just because I'm a nerd and I love talking about it. But yeah, let's talk about some of the actual practical stuff that people can use. So what I do is I kind of have this resource called the 8 levers, and the whole idea is it's some little things you can do, some little techniques you can use when chatting to a tool like ChatGPT to try and get the most out of it. And it's based on some research that came out towards the end of last year in December, of things that works with it, really. And I always say to teachers, just start chatting with ChatGPT, like see where it goes. But that's difficult sometimes, because like we were saying before, once you've thought, oh, I'll get it to do a lesson plan, or I'll get it to do some questions, it's then almost the onus is on you to have a good imagination to get what you need out of it. And so I think our own imagination can limit us in that respect. So I think, first of all, join a community, whether that be chatting to people on LinkedIn, whether it be people in your school who are sharing ideas, whether it be using an ed tech tool that's based on AI, because it could give you some ideas of what you can do with this, and then just pushing it and see where it can go, see how you can get it better. And I often compare it to like a new member of staff joining your team in your department. Like if you said hello to them and then were like, could you do this for me? I don't know. Could we want to see a lesson plan for next week just so we're okay with it? And their lesson plan just wasn't up to scratch. Would that be it? Would you sack them? Would they be out the door? Like, of course not. Like you would mentor them, you would chat to them, you would have a conversation with them, you'd build a relationship with them, you'd maybe model the standards for your department so that they can see what you expect. You would, and all these different techniques that we use in ordinary day life are applicable to like ChatGPT, and it's about treating it like almost like a member of your team. And if it doesn't understand or hasn't done something that you like, have a conversation with it. Like, say to it, actually, that's not my standard. This is my standard. Here's an example. I'll upload an example of what we consider a good standard. Here's a template. And it's about going back and forth with it and really getting to a point. And that's what you would do in real life. You build a relationship, and a relationship is built primarily through conversation, really, isn't it? Getting to know each other and seeing how each other work, especially in a professional setting. So it's not too different there. So so they're 8 levers. Some that people will be familiar with, like giving it a role, essentially trying to get it to give it more context to what you want it to do, all the way through to emotionally manipulating it, which sounds bizarre, but it doesn't have emotion, so it's not its feelings aren't going to be hurt. But you can say things to try and get more out of it. Again, like we do with other people, we have lots of different methods of language techniques that we have with other people. I mean, probably a famous one for if you're a line manager, is the criticism sandwich. Like, give someone a compliment, then give them a bit of criticism, then give them another compliment, build them up. We use language techniques like that all the time. We do it with our partners at home, like, because you're blunt with everybody all of the time, are you? You approach a conversation from a certain angle because you feel like the mood is not right for that type of angle, or whatever it is. We do this day to day. And I think one of the things that the biggest thing that people don't realize is that we've now got technology that speaks our language. Like in the past, we've had to learn its language. We've had to press the buttons in the right way. We've had to download it. We've had to, to the point of speaking literally the computer's language by coding and learning new languages to communicate with it. Now we've got computers can speak our language, which in one way is absolutely amazing. However, brings with it a whole new set of complexities because our language is subjective. Our language doesn't just depend on the person who's communicating, it depends on the person who's receiving the communication. There's so many complexities there and we deal with that every day anyway. So it's about almost being reminded or made aware that the skills that we use in that regard can be applied to a tool like ChatGPT because it's speaking our language. And when we talk to it, it just needs to understand us a bit more. That's kind of fundamentally it. So those levers are just kind of, let's say you're talking to ChatGPT and you're like, it's not being specific enough. I don't think it's fully understanding what I'm trying to get at here. It's just some things that you can do to throw into the conversation that will help you get a bit more specific. It follows an acronym called PREPARED. So it's, you can check it out. It's a free resource on my website. It's also, on my website, there's a free guide there. It's one of the chapters in that guide as well.
So I want to ask, because we've given the game away multiple times. We're filming this a long time before it's coming out. 6th of January, 2025. What do you think the biggest thing would have changed from the beginning of October 24? Take a wild guess. What do you think would have anything that you think would have come out by?
Well, I'm considering people are hearing this on the 6th or later. I'm obviously going to be very, very safe here. I don't know. I don't know. This is not a cop out, but I think if you look back to kind of late 2022, I mean, apart from little features and maybe more advanced models, can you really look back and go, something big happened there? It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's developing so frequently that it's kind of like it's happening without us almost realizing. It's a bit like, if you've got kids, like you then look at a picture of them from 2 years ago and you're like, what? In my eyes, they look exactly the same. How did they go from that to that?
Yeah.
Because you just don't see it happen, do you? So I think we'll get more of the same. I think we're going to keep getting those incremental improvements. I don't know, maybe ChatGPT or OpenAI will have come out with a more advanced model or a more mainstream model for their O1 preview or whatever they've called it. Maybe ChatGPT will get better at naming things. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
There is no convention to this whatsoever. It's madness. I can't keep up with it.
It's the fact they call GPTs. It's like, come on. Like, think about the guys who are training teachers on this stuff. Like,
What did Gemini call theirs? I keep forgetting. What is Gemini's? Is that different? Gems, is it? Gems? Yeah.
Yeah.
Claude just went for a project. Claude just went for projects. They could have been a bit more creative.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up as we always do. And so we shoot out some quick fire questions. Everyone who's listened before, because we do have a repeat audience, you'll know these. Dan won't. But
what you
we
saying,
have got a couple of choices for you, and you can answer these as quick fire as you please. It's completely up to you. So, Apple or Android?
Oh, it used to be Android until about a year and a half ago. Now it's Apple.
Or full Mac? Microsoft or Google? I think I can guess.
Yeah, Google.
Teams or Classroom?
We can guess this was.
Yeah.
Is it me? Am I up? ChatGPT.
No, sorry.
Who's up?
ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude?
Oh, that's difficult. I don't really use Gemini, but it's a close call between ChatGPT and Claude. I think it's probably Claude more at the minute.
Oh, interesting. Favorite bit of EdTech?
What a question. I don't even know how to answer it. Favorite bit of EdTech? I think the fact that it makes people think beyond what's possible.
Oh, I like it. I leave that one open for interpretation on purpose as well, because everyone's mind goes somewhere else, where it's hardware, software, or philosophical. I like it. Phones or no phones?
In school, in the classroom?
In school,
yes. Yeah, in school.
I'll have to give it a caveat, but at the minute, based on latest research, I'm going to have to say no phones, but a safe device to use that's connected to the internet.
Oh, very safe. iPad or Chromebook?
Oh, you know what? It's because I used to be so Google and Android when I was in the classroom, when I was working in education. It was like my whole life. And now that I just work for myself, I've gone fully Apple. I'm gonna say Chromebook, because I've bought an iPad and I don't even use it, so I don't even see the point in it now. So yeah, let's go Chromebook.
Interactive panel or whiteboard?
What are these questions, man? I don't think I'll say whiteboard.
Yeah. Whiteboard. Final one: visualizer or screen grab?
What was the second one?
Or a screen grab, like a screenshot.
Oh. Just because I don't like visualizers, I'll say a screenshot.
Perfect. Don't worry, that's it. That's all the random questions out of the way. You did well. I like it. Everyone's always very different for different reasons.
You should call them the vague random questions. I think that might be a bit more.
Probably, yeah. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone's had a happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, back to school today, is it?
Everyone's probably either. I think I'm starting back to school tomorrow.
Right. I like how you wear the shirt and tie on the holidays, though.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready already.
And that's how forward planning you are. I've got no idea what time I start back. I'm still trying to get through my term. So well done on being that organised and knowing that far ahead. But Dan, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and a lot of, again, value in there, talking about value we can offer, but there was a lot and a great listen back. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Aaron. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Matthew.
Thanks, Dan. Speak to you soon.